This is why you're broke. And I mean no disrespect. There was a point when I was broke, and then there was a situation that happened that started me down this path, which led me to where I am today. But this lack of knowledge, this lack of comprehension is why you're broke. A lot of people say, hey, that information you teach is only for rich people. And I always counter that with, why? How did they get rich? Before they were rich, they were what? You're going to tell me that they were rich the whole time? They were born into wealth? Okay, what about the generation before them and the generation before that and the generation before that? And if you think that specific knowledge isn't passed down from generation to generation in what I like to call the private, which is really amongst families and really close friends, then, honestly, that's your prerogative. But this is why you're broke. This is the foundation. My name is Sot L. Speaker of Truth L, Seeker of Truth L. It's been a while. But I'm back to kick a little game. Listen, I want to start off by saying thank you, and another thank you. We reached 1,000 subscribers, which to me is a big milestone due to the nature of the information that we discuss religiously. Like, we really very, very infrequently deviate. So, I think that's a milestone for 1,000 subscribers. We're going to give away another pair of AirPods. And we also have an iPad mini that we would like to give away. And you know what? For the AirPods, if you just make a comment on this video and, make it substance. If you just put a one character or a period or, hey, good show or something, I don't know. But a substantive comment just on this video. That's it. I'll have the guys choose from the comments at random. I don't know how they're going to do it, but, And of course, we can't get involved. I'm not going to send it to someone that works or is in contract here at the foundation. But, yeah, man, we're going to give away a pair of AirPods to someone that leaves a comment on this video. You got to be able to verify that that's your account. But that's it. It's as simple as that. And you got to be able to send us a shipping address. You don't send us a shipping address, we can't send you the AirPods. And also, don't put your shipping address in the comments, y'all. Don't do that. Do not. Please. But yeah, as a thank you, we're going to give away some AirPods. We're going to give away this, this iPad mini. And, it's just our way of saying thank you for, clicking the subscribe button, because, you don't have to. And that's the thing on these platforms these days. So shout out to the subscribers. But yeah, man, with that being said, let's get up into the show. Let's do a little dance. You want to do a dance? I'll do a dance with you. Make sure you check out welcome to thefoundation.com. At minimum, sign up for the email list. But there's a lot of information on here. There's a lot of things. You can book a consultation. You can start on your private transition and what it means and, what it's all about, what it entails is going to be specific to your personal situation, your family situation, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, incorrect information, incorrectly applied, can get you hurt. Correct information, incorrectly applied, can get you hurt. So we're always looking to correctly apply that correct information here at the foundation. So with that being said, excuse me. Yeah, check out the website. Welcome to thefoundation.com. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but you're not going to accidentally get to this website. And that was kind of the point. But we got the dance over here. Also, we have the most comprehensive trustee training available. Learn at your own pace. You will learn how to create private trusts, administer private trusts, which is most important, the nature, the history, the law, all of it. You will be able to teach this to your progeny, your family, your friends, whoever you're looking to conduct private business with. It's a luxurious dance. So, link in the description of this video if you're interested. We also have this how to start a business, which is a main theme, right? Not only with the foundation, just in general, and what we talk about here, but also with this episode. This is why you're broke. And, I say this with all respect. But, if you're listening to this and if I'm talking to you. So, I don't like to talk mess about people. I do speak the facts, speaker of truth. And, also, I like to give solutions. The main solution is learning private trust administration. Did you know that you could, you can create let's say a business in this situation. You can create a business through contract that is governed by the contract and is not subject to the state statutory laws. I'm not giving legal advice. This is just what I know. I could be crazy. So don't take this as legal advice. I can't give legal advice. I'm not an attorney. But this is just my, my personal experience. And the implications with regards to that knowledge is ridiculous. And we get into that. We get into that in trustee training. But you need a business. I would say you need a business, a family business. A lot of people think that they can't do it. It's too expensive to learn. It's just something that's just outside of their reach. This is this course for you. This course is for you. If you fell into any of those categories, this course is for you. Learn at your own pace. Once again, you do your dance on your own time. But, we're also here. We have a support system. You can email us. You can hit up the people in support. It's not just a here, you do this and then good luck with it. Nah, this is education. We're not into sales, man. We're into education. And on top of that, we got the magazine, Luxurianism. We got a digital edition and a print edition. We're about to do some cybersecurity stuff with this magazine. It's going to be off the chain. I really like it, and I appreciate the people that support it, especially people who have subscriptions. Link in the description if you're interested. There's a print edition. It'll get mailed to you. It's real. It's serious. It's definitely serious. So with that being said, let's get into this show. And this is just my opinion. It's my opinion. But this is why you're broke. And how we're going to do this, I think first thing we got to do, excuse me, is we need to define labor, right? And what labor is. But I guess before we get to labor, let me kick it like this. So we have the simplest way I can say it, and not that, I need to say it is simple, but my job is to get my point across, right, to as many people as possible. So I'm going to say it like this. The life that I have, right, the breath in my lungs, excuse me, where my water at? There it is. The energy that animates my physical vessel, my body, was not endowed to me or endowed upon me, granted to me by any government, state or federal. We have my parents. We have, those other parental caretakers throughout my life. We have my grandparents. We have the creator of the boundless universe, Some people would say God, some people would say Allah. Some people would say Jehovah. And some people would say, other names. But neither one of those names are governments. state or federal, once again. So I came into a situation where I had to comprehend that in a state of high irritation. Out of the country, generating euros, pounds, what have you, based off my my energy. Let's just keep it at that energy, my energy that I control. And I had to come to a realization that, and I was told by a professional whom I respected in their professional capacity with regards to the organization I was contracted with, that, I was required to pay taxes to the United States no matter where I made the money, no matter what country, doesn't matter. And that right there really, really irritated me. And, you can call it ego, you can call it high emotions, immaturity, lack of, psychological comprehension, whatever, you may call it. I was really upset, and I felt as though, the United States, the state, did nothing to assist in me getting here to where I am that allows me to do what I'm doing to generate this, quote, income, end quote, in these, quote, foreign jurisdictions, end quote. And I had a big problem with that. A big problem with that. And the reason why I had a big problem with that, and I'm going to be honest, because, I'm gonna speak the truth. I didn't have the money I felt like I was supposed to have. I wasn't in the position that I should have been in. And, having to pay taxes was just another party taking a piece of my pie. And I didn't have enough for that not to bother me. So that was an unexpected expense that came out of nowhere that I wasn't financially prepared for. And, to me, I was broke. Excuse me. I was broke. And, I can either deal with it, accept it, or change it. And, I'm not really one to accept circumstances that I feel don't serve me. And being broke, having been broke, my bad, or being broke in that situation, how about that? I decided to make a change, and it led me to here. It led me to this show right here where I'm saying this is why you're broke, because I've been there. And there were some things that I didn't understand. Some things I had no idea, I didn't even know. That once I comprehended, and not only comprehended, but was able to utilize, it changed my life. And it changed the life of my family. And I'm trying, and I've been trying for the past 10 years, almost 400 episodes of The Foundation, right? And then there's more stuff that we won't talk about that, right? But I've been attempting for almost 10 years, all of us here at The Foundation, to educate anyone who will listen, anyone whose spirit is called to this information. The knowledge that I gained that changed my life. So, with that being said, let's jump into this. I was looking for a definition online, and I couldn't really find one. So what I had to do was I had to pull up a PDF document, a Black's Law Dictionary. I think I settled on 7th edition, and this is, excuse me, one of the PDFs that all trustees in training receive. If you get in trustee training, you get this big folders. I think it's almost 3 gigs or maybe almost 4 gigs. of different templates and documents and law dictionaries and so on and so forth. So I grabbed this straight out of there. So if you're a trustee, you're in training, or you're a trustee who's ever been in training and you have the trustee dissemination folder, I'm looking at the same document that you could be looking at or are looking at if you pulled it up. So this is Black's Law 7th edition, right? And this is the definition of labor. And for some reason, it's blank. So hold on, let me do something. Wow. I can't see it. Okay, I can see it. So labor, here we go. Work of any type, including mental exertion, the fruits of one's labor. And I'm not going to get into the instances within legal definitions. Generally, there's 3 instances or definitions to a single word. The second instance is, in consideration of some sort of group, body, kind of more towards legislation. And then the third one is, with regards to measuring land. So let's stick on the first one. Work of any type, including mental exertion, the fruits of one's labor, right? So it's labor. And this was important to me to understand. What is, not only the law that requires me to pay taxes on income outside the United States, man. But also to learn, the definition and to comprehend what these words or terms within this law, what they mean. So labor, work of any type, including mental exertion. Now I know that a country or a state government cannot do work, and it cannot exert anything mental with regards to labor. So when we're talking about labor or the fruits of one's labor, such as the foreign income, foreign to the United States, right? Let's move on. So the next thing I want to discuss is what exchange means, right? Because I had to comprehend these things. Let me get back to the browser. Boom, there's a browser. And then we go on to this. Here it is. So this is thelawdictionary.org. So we can rock with this, right? Definition and citations in conveyancing. A mutual grant of equal interests in lawds or tenements, the one in consideration of the other. The one in consideration of the other, right? So there's, it's an exchange. It's a conveyance. It's equal. At least it's implied. There's an implication of equality when they use the actual specific word equal, right? But whatever. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. I could be wrong. But this is what it says to me. A negotiation by which one person transfers to another funds which he has in a certain place, either at a price agreed upon or which is fixed by commercial usage. And then you got the profit which arises from maritime loan. No, my labor is not a maritime loan. And understanding this, right? I went back to that person who was telling me that I needed to pay, the taxes. And he told me, because I'm not, and I realized this, I used to think people were being weird professionally, but I realized after a while that, I'm not paying them for this. The ones that were around me, they were getting paid for a specific job with regards to how they were interacting with me. And, this stuff was outside of, their delegation of authority, their requirement of action. I understand that now. In time, I ain't like it. But he told me, he said, U.S. citizen. Jurisdiction follows a U.S. citizen, no matter where they go. So I didn't understand this U.S. citizenship. This U.S. citizen, what is this? So I got into, that ideology or that, that train of questioning. And I'm not going to bore you with the details. I'm not attempting in any way to take up all of your time. Because if you check me out, I don't like doing that. But I was looking around on the internet, looking for a definition of, a legal person, right? Because U.S. citizen is a person, right? And I was like, okay, U.S. person. Okay, U.S. person. That's where it came from, U.S. person. And I kept seeing U.S. person, which was the equivalent of U.S. citizen, right? And this is funny because this question, I don't know, but we don't have to get into that question. But, and you can go back and pause it if you want to see the question. But this is all I found when I was doing searches with regards to this question. And not this question, I've heard that question before. But this isn't this it's not germane to what we're talking about. We're talking about labor and exchange and why we're broke. Okay, so this guy who is a bankruptcy lawyer, right? So this is an attorney. So I'm not an attorney. This guy's an attorney. And here's his number. You can call him. You can ask him. You know what I'm saying? You can ask him because I'm not an attorney. But this is his answer to that question up there, right? A birth certificate does not create a legal person, okay? Entity or corporation, so it doesn't. It is simply a government-issued record of an individual's birth, primarily used for identification or identity. Wow. Identity verification and legal recognition of personhood. So that's where that U.S. person, I was like, oh. So this guy's kind of talking. He's, what is he saying, though? The term ens legis refers to a legal entity created by law, like corporations or trusts, but it does not apply to individuals. But individuals are persons. And that's what had me down this rabbit hole, right? And it got weird, but ultimately I fell upon trust, and that's where I stayed. And that's been successful for me ridiculously. And this is what this is about, but this is why I was broke, right? I'm sorry. Corporations or legal entities originate through specific legal processes like incorporation, which is distinct from registration of birth, which is absolutely correct. And let me just say, private trusts are not created through a legal process, and they are not incorporated, and they are not registered with the state. That's not how it works. And I mean, I've seen it, but if you would ask me, that is absolutely incorrect. But I'm not an attorney. I don't, practice law. I don't practice law. The court system often deals with creditor versus debtor situations because there are common legal disputes. This does not mean the legal system operates solely on the principles, or is functioning under bankruptcy. So you see, was that a direct yes or no? I like attorneys. Regarding the legal system's operation, it is designed to uphold laws and ensure justice. Lawyers and judges are bound by ethical and legal standards. While the system isn't perfect, there are mechanisms in place to address misconduct or errors. Right? So, this personhood. So let's move. Legal personhood. I'm just, following the rabbit. Right. Legal personhood, fundamental aspect of Western law that allows a person, right? Here's this person again, corporation, or other entity to engage in the legal system. A legal person can own property, be sued by or sue others, agree to contracts, and engage in other actions within a legal system. The concept of legal personhood has existed since the time of ancient Roman law. Legal personhood is described in a 1928 edition of the Yale Law Journal. This is from Britannica, Britannica.com. This isn't, I don't know, is this right wing? Is this left wing? I'm not sure. I don't pay attention. Legal personhood often refers to non-human entities receiving the same legal rights as a human under a court of law. But the status of legal personhood has not always been evenly applied to all humans. And that's where you get in capitis diminutia minima, capitis diminutia maxima. Y'all can check this out. I'm not going to digress. Historically, governing bodies have denied many. Wait, I lost my place. Historically, governing bodies have denied many historically oppressed groups legal personhood. Oh, I was in the right place. The Anglo-American common law concept of coverture, for instance, denied a married woman's legal personhood by designating a husband and wife as a single entity. Through the 19th century, U.S. Supreme Court rulings such as 1857 Dred Scott decision denied enslaved people the right to legal personhood, instead designating them the property of their enslavers. Peoples with disabilities have also been denied legal personhood, such as in the 1927 Supreme Court case Buck versus Bell, which upheld the forced sterilization of disabled people in support of eugenics. Sounds like legal personhood. Fam. Corporations and legal personhood. Legal personhood for corporations, for instance, means that lawsuits can be brought against corporations for failing to perform contractual duties. It also protects individual workers from charges against the corporation. American corporations also enjoy some of the same rights as human citizens, including the right to free speech. This is kind of complex, isn't it? And I realize that as well. It's like, wow. So if a legal person is a non-human entity, right? And a U.S. citizen is a U.S. person, and a U.S. person is a type of personhood you within a system, within a legal system, right? This a legal person can own property, be sued, or sue others, agree to contracts, and engage in other actions within a legal system. And then it hit me, right? That's where it hit me. And this is a long time ago, and of course I wasn't looking at this specific website, but it was, we're on a very similar path that I recall very well. So within this legal system, there's legal tender. Within this legal system, there's legal tender. So there was, and then the word you is plural. Y-O-U is plural. Look it up. I'm not going to digress, right? So when he was like, you have to pay U.S. taxes on all this, euros and pounds, now I understand what he was saying. And please understand, like, I was in an industry where they didn't smarten up the chumps. I was the talent. I was the workhorse. It was just more lucrative. So, they're talking to me, but they're not speaking to me. Does that make sense? I'm hearing them, but I'm not comprehending. But I think I'm hearing them, and they're using that against me because I'm dealing with contracts, because I'm dealing with a legal system. And there's legal personhood. So in my situation, it kind of came to light. Legal systems. Let's get into this. Whoa, what happened? A legal system is a framework or the framework of rules, procedures, and institutions that a community uses to interpret and enforce their laws. A legal system is binding on all legal disputes within its jurisdiction. There's no uniform legal system across the globe. Each jurisdiction uses its own legal system. So the state has its own legal system. The federal government, United States, has their own legal system. Cities have their own legal system. Municipalities have their own legal system. There's city ordinances, that's a system. State statutes, that's a system. Federal statutes, that's a system. I didn't know this. I had no idea. I was like, what? That was how I reacted. I mean, my mind was blown. And I'm sitting there by myself. And I can't really talk to anyone. Hey, man, did you? Because, I can't really, it's very difficult to catch someone up. And, I've been dealing with this for a long time. So how I'm walking you as the audience through this is at the speed is times 1,000. I didn't do this. I wasn't like, oh, I have to pay taxes on this. Oh, really? Well, let me get on the internet. And 20 minutes later, nah, man, this took years. But this right here, when I comprehended this, legal systems and jurisdictions, that's when I was like, wow, okay, so what subjects me to this legal system in these jurisdictions? Me personally, right? The only thing that I could think of was a birth certificate. That was it. That was what I was using. That was the name on these contracts, or could be alleged that was the name on the contracts. You understand? That was the name on the bank accounts. That was the names on the checks. That was the name I was using when I was, what was I doing? Contracting the tax preparers and attorneys on my behalf or on its behalf. That was the only nexus that I could find. Like, I really had to think about it, really had to contemplate, like, for real, sit down, no music, nobody talking, no phones, no nothing. And it took a while. So we got jurisdictions, power of a court to adjudicate cases and issues. What was the issue? It was an issue for me. You know what I'm saying? I was required, ordered to pay income taxes. To the United States, that the taxes that I'm paying on the income was not United States notes. It was not, this note is legal tender, we're all debts, public and private. It wasn't. And this is, I don't feel like a lot of people are in that situation, but I was in that situation. And this is where I got this. This is why people were like, well, so how did you, this is how, this right here, this is what I'm telling you. It doesn't matter what I was doing, what the energy exchange was. It doesn't matter, because we're all exchanging energy in the public realm through a specific structure or entity or person. And that person can own property. And that person can, and I was like, oh, so they're probating the person's estate and anything that's in that person's name. Ooh. Whether there's personal jurisdiction, also known as whether the court may even hear the case involving the particular defendants. This is further broken down into 3 categories, and this is the fundamental question, whether or not the court has jurisdiction. My bad. In personam jurisdiction, they have jurisdiction over the person. In rem jurisdiction, they have just, what is it? In rem jurisdiction, what is rem? How can I say that? The property, the stuff, the matter. And then quasi in rem. Well, we kind of got, but they have anything titled, anything being paid to that name that's associated, and then I was like, okay, so how's the U.S. citizenship? And I was like, oh, whoa. Well, there's a federal number that's associated with this state birth certificate. Wow. So it dawned on me, everything that I did, down to the protection on my intellectual property, was in that name, the name of the person, the name of the legal person. It was in that name. And then I realized, okay, so that's why it can be required that U.S. taxes, be paid on, I was like, okay, so if I'm sitting in the United States and I make, if money, sent to my account, but it's euros and then they convert it or something, right? I was ignorant. And at this point I was very, very irritated. And I was irritated honestly with myself because I felt like I had been tricked. And not only with, the person, but also with what I was doing, like how the activity that I was utilizing to exchange my energy into the public for, equal value, which is supposed to be, the legal tender, the US tender. That was silly. When everybody else does it, everybody else accepts, the legal tender of the United States. So I just didn't get it. But I got it with this legal person. This is when I got it, right? I got it. And then once again, capitis diminutio maxima and capitis diminutio minima. That's where it came from. I'm not going to digress. So why I was broke is because I was using the wrong structure to exchange my energy into the legal jurisdiction, the legal system, the commercial system of the world, not only the United States. It was a legal person. It was a legal US person that I was utilizing in France, in London, in wherever I was at. It was the same. It was a legal person. So when I understood that, right, I also understood the different types of legal persons, right? There's corporations and there's trusts. Had to understand that. Then I had to run around it took me 3 attorneys before I understood, and it was on me, right? And I was sort of belligerent because I felt like I was being lied to by these attorneys because they told me trusts have to dissolve after 12 years, which I felt was an insult to my intelligence because I had known, kids in school who were trust fund babies and they got their money at either 18 or 21. So if the trust was created when they were born, how did they get money at 18 and 21 if the trust had to be dissolved at 12 years? So by the third attorney, I was like, listen, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Please don't lie to me. She was like, how can I help you? I was like, you help me, but not lie to me. That was the first thing I said to her. And please don't, and I said, you're the third attorney, please. So I got her to agree that she wasn't going to lie to me. I'm telling you, that's what I did. And your word matters, especially with people who understand that, your word is your bond and your word carries liability depending on what you say, and that's why it's I could be liable if I put myself out there as an attorney and I'm giving legal advice when I am not an attorney and I cannot give legal advice. All I can talk about is what I know and what I comprehend to be true. But I also have to say, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. And I don't know. I could be crazy. I have to say that due to liability. Because if I just speak, someone who doesn't know could listen to what I'm saying and I could sound like an attorney. But I'm not. I comprehend aspects of law that usually and generally only attorneys do. And that's my responsibility. So I said, please don't lie. I got her to agree that she wasn't going to lie to me. And I said, I came back to this country and I went to 2 different attorneys and they're telling me that trusts have to dissolve after 12 years. And I know that's not true because I know trust fund, and same thing I just said. And she said, statutory trusts have to dissolve after 12 years. And she handed me her card and she walked me to the door because obviously I was not going to be a customer. I was a fool walking in asking foolish questions, not understanding what I'm talking about. There's different types of trusts and there's different types of trusts that fall under different jurisdictions. But the attorney told me that. She told me that. She said statutory trusts must dissolve after 12 years, which put me down another path to realize different states have different laws with regards to trusts. And I was like, oh, wow, which put me down another path. Oh, there's other trusts that aren't state. And I think I was reading some law. I don't remember exactly what law I was reading because I've read so much. And that's why I put together what's that? There's why am I drawing a blank to the things that we offer here at the foundation? It's crazy. It's this one, the Trust Primer. That's why I put this together, because people would ask me, so, how did you get to where you are right now? Like, where did you start? Where should I start? Where do I start? And this is why there's the Trust Primer, because I went and was like, okay, let me sit down and think about not only where did I start, but where I would like someone to start me. Because I had to fumble through all this stuff over several years, y'all. Several years. So, yeah, she said statutory trusts have to dissolve. So, okay, that was a distinction. I understood that language. There's a distinction. She made a distinction. She didn't lie to me, but she didn't tell me either. But that was enough for me. So, from then, I stumbled into private trust. I'm like, yo, what is this? And then there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's Massachusetts trust, it's pure trust, it's a common law trust, it's a bunch of, I was confused for a second. And you know what I did? I read everything. That's what I did. I read everything. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. There's stuff that, like, there's probably documents that you have on your hard drive right now, or in your phone right now, or in your cloud storage right now that I've read that you haven't even read. But I read them. I read everything. And what happened was things started categorizing. Things started repeating themselves. The authors started saying basically the same thing. I started to pull principles out. And what I was able to do when I did that was, there are multiple jurisdictions. And there are jurisdictions that are public, and there are jurisdictions that are private. And most importantly, I did not have. It was not a requirement for me to use the legal person that I was using up until that point. That was the biggest deal for me. And actually, it was 100% legal. And I would not get into trouble if I used a different structure to exchange my energy into the commercial legal system of almost any jurisdiction. And that's from, the Hague Convention on the recognition and something, jurisdiction of trust. It's the Hague Convention on the recognition. What is it? The Hague Convention. Yeah, it's just, if you search Hague Convention on the HAGUE Convention on the recognition of trusts, you'll find it. That's when I found that. I was like, oh, what? Because there was subtle deference given to this jurisdiction. And it ended up being contract. It ended up being private contract. It ended up being so simple. Article 1, Section 10, in part, states, no state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts. And then understanding that, the framers of the Constitution brought the English common law with them, specifically the unlimited right to contract, which was set up the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, as well as the Bill of Rights, right? Which are all contracts. They're signed. They're actually trusts. The Constitution is a trust. It has amendments. It has a board of trustees, which is Congress. It's a trust. And then my head exploded. My head completely exploded. It was kablooey. And I felt like I had figured out some stuff, and I'm like, oh man, they're gonna come get me. I for real had some anxiety stuff happen one time. And it was at a friend's house on a friend's couch, and they were like, are you okay? And I hadn't said anything. But it was obviously just my energy. Because I sat back, because I had just realized, whoa, you know some stuff. And this was, of course, after, opening the first trust account, and so on and so forth. I think I had to title the vehicle or two in a private contract trust. I printed the stuff on my printer, man, and got it notarized and got an EIN. And it felt so wrong at first, man. I felt like the feds were coming for like 7 months. I felt like it was maybe 9 months. I felt like the feds were coming. Even though I knew, like, I had read the law, I'd gone to the law library so much that this law librarian thought I was an attorney. And she said, "Do you know that if you leave your bar card with us, you can take these books with you and then just bring them back?" And I said, "Oh, that's good to know." I didn't say, "Oh, I'm not an attorney." I mean, why? I don't know. But I just said, "Oh, I didn't know." And kept it moving. That's how much I was at the law library, like the actual law library. I mean, I'm signing into Westlaw, LexisNexis and stuff. I'm downloading court cases to a flash drive. I'm going home. I'm printing it out. It was crazy. But that's. And now, like, if I was to say, if someone was, one of the accountants would say, "Hey, you got to pay some taxes," or there's some taxes owed on this over here, this this organization. Like, I would not care. I'd be like, whatever, because I know that it's minimal. It's ridiculously, infinitesimally small in comparison to what that statement did to me in, what was that, like 2011? I think it was 2011 when my whole world turned upside down. All because I was told that I had to pay taxes on euros and pounds. I'm not playing. And that was why I was broke. And this is why you're broke. So when it comes to that, this is the Internal Revenue Service. Let me just keep it moving. Internal Revenue Service, right? Credits and deductions for individuals. And I would say it's limited, right? You got your standard deduction, and that's it. You got to itemize to do this, right? If you itemize, well, this down here, you can deduct, whether you itemize or not, alimony payments, business use of your car. I mean, come on, man. Business use of your home. How often does your job need to use your car or your home? Money you put in the IRA. I'm broke. I don't got money to put in the IRA. Money I put in this health savings account. I'm broke. I ain't got money to put in the health. Penalties on early withdrawals from savings. I wish I had savings. Student loan interest. Ooh-wee. And teacher expenses. I'm not a teacher. And for some military government self-employed, you can do some work-related, but maybe. And for military service members, moving expenses, which is, of course, man, a lot of times they got to move from Fort this to Fort that. They get, man, I knew a couple of military kids, and they knew multiple net languages, was cultured, was cool, and then they was out. They had to dip. You can itemize if you itemize. This is all the receipts, and you got to, which is substantiation in the private. When you talk about trust, itemization, when I hear itemization in the public, I think, oh, they just want substantiation. Bad debts, canceled debt on the home, excuse me, capital losses, donations to a charity, I ain't got bread, gains from you sell of your home, I'm renting, gambling losses, why would I gamble? Home mortgage interest, I wish, income sales, real estate, and personal property taxes. I was like, oh, okay, what? Income sales. So I clicked on that, right? Boom. And then it was state, local, and foreign income taxes. So your state taxes. State, that wasn't enough. I was like, oh, that ain't it. Disasters and theft. So I have to itemize a deduction if my house gets robbed. Who knows that? Medical and dental expenses. Over 7% of your AGI. Miscellaneous itemized deduction in opportunity zone investments. I'm making investments in opportunity zones. Meanwhile, you have this, publication 535. Where we at? Business expenses. It's different. I just want to point that out. And I want to point out how. So deducting business expenses. And they're going to talk about capitalization. What can I deduct? A business expense must be both ordinary and necessary. An ordinary expense is one that is common and accepted in your industry. What am I saying? So As an individual, I can't deduct if I buy a new refrigerator, right? I can't deduct if I buy a new car. I might maybe be able to deduct the interest on the loan of the car. Maybe. I don't know. I talked to the tax attorney. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. But the actual, 20 grand or 8 grand or whatever, I can't deduct that. I'm not going to get a credit for that. Businesses do, yo. They do. Or you can, you got to capitalize them. Let's say, oh, here we go. Capital expenses. You must capitalize rather than deduct some costs. These costs are part of your investment in your business and called capital expenses. Capital expenses are considered assets in your business. So you can capitalize an expense. What? In general, you capitalize 3 costs: business startup costs, business assets, and improvements. Cost recovery. How do you get your money back? Although you generally cannot take a current deduction for capital expense, so not this year, you may be able to recover the amount you spend through depreciation, amortization, or depletion. These recovery methods. So there's ways to recover a capital expense. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And of course, these are assets of the business, but if you control the business in the same way that you control the legal person, I don't know. I could be crazy. I could be wrong. I never went to law school. I could be reading this completely. This could be French to me. French. It's French. Voulez-vous des beurre? Voulez-vous des beurre? That's all I know how to say. No, that's not. But that's usually what I do say in French. I think it means, do you want some butter? This could be French to me, man. I don't know, but I know what I read and I know my experience. So this was my first step, starting a business. Not necessarily. I had a business. Well, my step was restructuring it properly and then utilizing it properly. And it was things that I couldn't do with an individual, legal person. Because when it's time to, quote, file a tax return, for me, I don't know about you, for me, it's the 1040 individual tax return. I don't know. It's just me. Seems like word games, but who knows? I do know it's called legalese, and it's like the language of the lawyers and the judges. And that's why, no one can give legal advice, because it's like, I don't know, you're supposed to be a professional or something. You got to know what you're talking about. But, the attorney studied, right? And I studied. I'm not an attorney, but I studied a lot. Mistaken for attorney multiple times. People think I'm playing with them sometimes. I'm saying, I'm not an attorney. Why are you lying to me? What? I am not an attorney. I would never be an attorney. But I understand it. It seems kind of confusing to me, though. Like right off the bat. It took me a while. But the first part was, okay, so let me get this business right. And whew, it was some luxurious dancing. The tax, the accountant for the business, he was, the accountant for the business. He congratulated me. He said, congratulations, and literally shook my hand when I restructured that business. I'm not playing. I came in and I said some stuff. I was like, well, and he was like, do you have this? And I gave it to him. He said, do you have this? And I gave it to him. And he just kind of looked at me. And then he asked me a couple questions, and he told me congratulations and shook my hand. But he was also an EA, which is an enrolled agent. And I don't know. I just know that they can represent the entity on behalf of the IRS or vice versa. Yeah, it can represent the structure to the IRS, the business, or with the structure to deal directly with the Internal Revenue Service, whereas the business, have to go and get another, get an attorney, because all corporations and LLCs, you can't represent them if you're not an attorney. It has to be an attorney because it's a statutory structure. So a state statutory legal attorney must be, blah, blah. And I think that's why, they appoint the legal person an attorney every time. That kind of made sense to me too. But I don't know. Am I crazy? I'm probably crazy. Leave a comment if you think I'm crazy. How about that? You might win some AirPods. But, from there, the next step was learning about these private structures where they couldn't say, oh, you got to do this. Oh, this is not an expense. You can't deduct that. They can't say stuff like that, at least to the trust that I administer. Because all of the policy, the procedures, the SOP, everything, what is and is not and shall not, is written in a contract. And I feel like it's confusing when you say, oh man, it's a trust, trustee training. And, it has to make sense, right? It just has to make sense, but it's not a trust. It's a contract, y'all. It only comes under trust law on how the income is dispersed and how the income is taxed. In every other situation, it is a trust. It is a contract. I'm serious. It's a contract. That's the difference, or one of the biggest differences. And most people don't articulate that. I don't know why. Maybe they're trying to hide something. Maybe they don't know. I'm not sure. But for the free, not for the fee, I'm going to tell you, it's a contract. That's why Article 1, Section 10 is so important. No state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contract. Ding, ding, ding. This is how I know. How do I know? I've done it. I do it every day. I do it. It's a regular thing. It's a regular thing. Do I utilize the individual person to exchange my labor in commerce? No, sir, or ma'am, or whatever, respectfully, I do not. No, I do not. There's a question on the 1041, which is the return for a trust. It asked, is there any income that the trust received by way of assignment but from an individual? I understand that question. You can't assign income for tax purposes. You know what that means? I can't make money and then give it to you and say, oh, it's his. He has to pay the taxes. No. I made the money, right? They wrote a check to me. So that amount, I'm responsible for any taxes. The money I give to this guy, he's responsible for any taxes. If I give him all the money that I was responsible for paying taxes on, that's my fault. That's the legal system. Remember I was talking about legal systems? That's the legal system under which, this legal tender laws fall under. So you can't assign income to a trust and thereby avoid tax obligation. That's actually tax evasion. And if you check yes on that box, you will be audited for sure. For sure. A lot of trick questions on the applications and I would say statements, from the government, from the Internal Revenue Service, That question, are you a U.S. citizen? I think that could be a trick question. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a mere layman saying nothing of what? Of relevance, maybe? But this is a contract. It's a contract. If you administer it right, it has ridiculous powers. And that's why it's all about trustee training. Selling a trust is not only one dangerous for the person that you're selling it to, right? But, if you're selling anything in the public, that's commerce. That's, there's legal ramifications. And they call that stuff, what do they call it? Tax schemes. This is not a scheme. This is education. This is trust administration. If you don't know how to properly administer the contract, you are at a high risk of incorrectly applying correct information. I used to always say it. I'm gonna start saying it again. I don't know how I fell out of the habit, but incorrect information incorrectly applied can get you hurt. Correct information incorrectly applied can get you hurt. Doesn't matter if the document that you bought off the internet is correct. Correct information incorrectly applied can get you hurt. Your estate, your wealth, your family, maybe your wife leaves you. This stuff is not a game. And that's why we appreciate the 1,000 plus subscribers at this point, because this is some heavy stuff. A lot of people don't want to talk about this, think about stuff like this. And then, how do I get out of what I'm in if I even comprehend what I'm in the first place? It was a struggle for me. I wish the foundation existed when I was told that I had to pay U.S. taxes on pounds and euros. That's why the foundation is a charity. I don't care what anyone says. It has a mission statement and it's educational in nature. That's a charitable activity. Is it tax exempt? Can you get a charitable deduction? No. We haven't filed for tax exempt status. Will we ever? No. We don't need tax exempt status or any permission from the U.S. government to be an educational firm. If you don't know how to do it, but you can obtain it, but you don't know how to use it, you should look at the person that gave it to you. Those are cars, chainsaws. That's why almost everything you buy has an owner's manual, or at least like one of them QR codes you can scan and go to their website and read the owner's manual, operating manual, has a whole bunch of warnings in that manual, what to not do with the instrument. Do not do this. Do not use in rain. Don't put this in the bathtub when it's plugged in. Listen. And it sounds like rudimentary. Like this dude he thinks he's smart. No, I don't. This is how I had to relate it. There's not an owner's manual for my vessel or this life, but there's an owner's manual for that car and that Macintosh computer you bought your daughter. There's an instructions manual. There's instructions. You got to know what you're doing. Or you can contract, LegalZoom to set up your stuff. They're not going to no one in the public is going to set up a private structure. Understand what I'm saying? No one in the public, and especially attorneys, because if the word gets back to the bar, come on, man. You creating entities that the state can't get revenue from through taxation, and you have a state bar card, bro. What are you doing? We can't tax that thing. That thing doesn't have to file a state tax return. What's wrong with you, man? I never looked at it like that before. It never made sense to me like that before. It's crazy almost. But it's like, I had to follow that white rabbit, didn't I? I had to do it, and here I am. Trust administration. You don't know how to administer it, I don't know what to tell you. People get mad, you can get mad. You can shake your fist, you can shake your fist. You can get involved in whatever, movement of victimization you want to. At the end of the day, everyone is responsible for their self. And I think to me, it's a divine responsibility to properly administer my life and be a steward of my energy and the things that I receive in return for the focused utilization of my energy, the focused exchange of my energy. That's on me. That's not on anyone else. That's on me. And I gratefully, 100%, I'm as happy that I have the ability to comprehend that duty. Seriously. So, when it comes to why you're broke, I have my own opinion, right? I definitely do. And I'm sure you have your opinion. And your opinion may be that, so I'm not broke. This dude doesn't even know what he's talking about. But be that the case, if anything I said strikes a chord with you, resonates with you, then my work is complete with this episode of The Foundation. And if any of you sign up for Trustee training, wow. Because honestly, I think my benefit is the benefit that I would receive with my children and grandchildren coming into contact with those children and grandchildren of the people who got into trustee training and learned it and taught it to their children. I mean, I was not happy when I felt like when I didn't have anything. I was not happy when I saw my dollars going away, my hard-earned money, when I was looking at check stubs and looking at the damage. First thing you do is look at the amount, because I don't know, which I should, right? Because I'm making a certain amount every hour, and I know how many hours I worked. But when I popped that check open, the first thing I looked at was the amount, because I don't know what I'm getting. And for me, that was helpless in a way that I couldn't comprehend or articulate at the time, but it was being expressed in other ways, in different ways of anger. And it wasn't just that, but that was one of them. And when I'm around the people that I care about, the people that I love, the people that love me, the things that I couldn't articulate were still there. And as I sit here as a grown ass man, and I've learned what I've learned, a lot of things make so much sense right now. And that sentiment, I guess, that not necessarily conviction, but that place of knowledge and a certain level of contentment. If I could give it to you, I would, because you would feel better and you would interact with me better, and then we would interact better, and we would all have a better time on this whole dance floor. Because we're all on the dance floor, and we're all doing our dance. And I just want to see you do your dance. So I hope that you learned something. And I hope you leave a comment. You can win some AirPods. With that being said, y'all enjoy yourself. Take care of yourself. Make sure you say 10 things that you're thankful for before you go to sleep tonight and every night. It's very important. And I'll catch y'all on the next episode of The Foundation. Peace, y'all.